really. I think a lot of you have been here, every year, has heard us do some of the presentations, and I'm not gonna lie, TCTR, I always think, I go to Brian, I'm like, do you have any comment cards? Like, what people want to hear? Because I don't want to waste your time, and then I'm like, what can I talk about that you don't already know? Because I think a majority of you in here do business with us already, so I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of draw a blank, and I try really hard, and then I realize, I'm like, well, I'm always changing stuff, let's be honest. Nothing's ever static. And then like, in my head, I have all these other changes that are going to make. So, I would really please recommend, like, if you want to hear something next year, please put in a comment card, because, that's what I go to base it off of, because like one year someone put, we want a selection overview, and we did that last year, and that was a big hit. And, I feel like this year might be a letdown. I had some people, I can't wait to see your presentation. I'm like, I should share, sorry. But also I want to open up for Q&A too, because, it's a process for sure, as most of you know. So, I got some updates. I want to talk about SEPSI, statements of interest. I want to talk about the lovely disclosure form, which everybody loves, and then some delinquent debt. And then before I make notes, we did not release this on the subscription service, I do apologize, but we did recently update the cost estimate. So there is a new form out there, so I'll make sure we post that on the subscription service, that there is a new cost estimate, the new CECS form that has the new cap information out there. So whenever you're doing a CECS, make sure you go to the website and get the latest and greatest form. Okay, so I always like to start out with data, and if anyone knows me, I love data. I think if I could just dig in data all day, I would be super happy and it would be great. But most of my day is answering emails and phone calls. So I just wanted to kind of give an update, and this was as of February 13th when I put the slides together. The data is always changing, the numbers are always changing, but it's uber misleading right now because, as most of you know, we have Land Act now. So my last year and a half has been basically working with a lot of the Land Act firms, getting them acclimated to quality-based selection, the process, and then my biggest move yet is to move them into EPAS. So hence, I say, hey, we have 390 firms pre-qualified. It's very misleading because now I'm having some LAB firms snuck in there. So just to let you know. So, DBE, we have about 38%, 62% non-DBE. So just to kind of really break down the engineering firm side, right? So last year we had 366 pre-qualified firms, and this year we probably increased by 3, although I know we had a few new firms that we got approved recently. So not a huge change in the engineering firms. It's pretty stable right now. We did increase our DBE counts, and I keep hearing music. I'm like, that sounds way more fun. Sorry. Maybe next year we should put that on the comment card. Let's have music. It'd be way better. I don't, maybe some of you don't care about, knowing about the Land Act numbers. That is new. So not only does my office publish the PTB, which is the Professional Transportation Bulletin, but we also publish the Land Acquisition Bulletin, the LAB, because recently Land Act services became quality-based. So I will also be tracking and working with Land Act firms, and as of right now, I only have 21 approved. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous about that because I know there's a lot more Land Act firms out there. This number should grow because per Central Bureau of Land Act, they identified 130 Land Act firms, and I only have 42% have an account in EPAS, so I'm missing about like 70 firms. So I hope they meet the deadline. So like, you're not laughing. It's just not fun. So I don't know, we've done a lot of outreach with Land Act firms. I had a LAB open house. I'm sure all of you are like, I don't care about Land Act services. But unfortunately, it's kind of been one of my focal points. So basically what I was trying to get at is, next year if I'm here and I do this presentation, obviously you're not going to see 390. You're probably going to see over 400 or 400 firms pre-qualified because I'm hoping to move all those Land Act firms into EPAS by October of this year. So I like to also talk about categories. As you all know, these have never changed. It's the top 5 categories of pre-qual numbers. So highways, roads, and streets, there's a lot of competition. We have 207 consultant engineering firms pre-qualified. That's a lot of competition in phase 2. Not only is that, we have 189 pre-qualified firms in construction inspection. And I'm sorry, I wrote my notes. These are just like indicators of how it fluctuated from last year's numbers when we were here at TCTR. So coming in third, we have location design studies rehab, special studies, traffic studies, and then the location drainage category. So those are the top 5 category firms. And I kind of like to showcase it because, you know, when you're filling out your statement of interest, it's kind of nice to know, right? Like, you know, everyone thinks their firm is great and excellent, but then you look at the end of the day, if you're going for a phase 3 job, there's 188 other firms out there that are also pre-qualified in that work. So something to just take into consideration when you're doing your statement of interest, because there is a lot of competition. So as you know, our program is huge. I have been in this capacity for, I think, 6 years. I can't remember, I think. And I remember my first selection, I was all excited. I was like shadowing Carrie, and it was like 13 items. I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, like we went through selection, press release, 13 items, and then I had my they're huge. So since 2019, we have selected 1,185 projects, and that is basically PTB 190 to 214. PTB 215 just closed last week, as you are all aware. Congratulations. You know, that is amazing because you only have 3 tight weeks to build those statements of interest. And I also heard there's a lovely tollway bulletin out at the same time. So, you know, good luck on that. I feel bad because I heard the overlap. I was like, we have a schedule. And I'm not gonna lie, like I love deadlines, so you know, that's just hard on you guys, because why would you, sorry, derailing. So dollar figure, so talk about how many projects we selected. So since 2019, we have about $2.62 billion selected in the program. That is a lot, and definitely significantly bigger than what you were used to probably like 6 or 7 years ago. And again, this data is from 190 and 214. So as you can tell, 2020, it was like when I got the training wheels off and Carrie left me, it was like spiked up to like $528 million. We had a ton of projects. And since 2022, it's really stayed steady. And of course, down here represents PTB 214, which was selected in January. So, shifting gears, I always like to talk about SEPCs, and I know Megan and Lauren left, and I really want to give a shout out to them because they are working very, very hard, and I haven't updated printout because I think they do. I was going to talk about SEPCs. So something we've been tracking since last year is the SEPCs. As most of you are well aware, SEPCs take time to get approved, your overhead rate, right? So pre-qual categories were usually very swift, doesn't take a long time, but then it's the overhead rate we're usually waiting on. And of course, everybody's well aware, the June deadline, the June backlog is what we like to call it. So at one point in time, so this is a snippet of a report that we have, we were kind of under a microscope, and we had to report weekly the status of our SEPCs. So this is a snippet, and audits and my unit actually share a spreadsheet, so I can go into their work queue, they can come into my work queue, and it's nice because we're on the same page, and I can run a lovely pie chart, and I can see what the numbers are at any given rate. So this I ran back on the 13th of February, which has drastically changed. Well, maybe not the total. So right now I have about 418 firms who have submitted a SEPC. Again, knowing that some of those are Land Act firms, which the Land Act firms do not get an approved overhead rate at this time. So those are a little unique. And I do know now, like, if anyone's familiar with the status is, ranking complete is kind of like the holding period, and that's with audits. So Megan and her team did get that down to 94 SEPCs, and that was ran yesterday afternoon. So Megan and her team are doing a really great job getting these numbers down. And I'm probably going to head myself because it always fascinates me when I pull up my PowerPoint. I'm like, oh, wow, 2023, we were not good. We only had 26 approved, like 26% approved, and 74% unapproved. Last year, we totally flipped it, and we were really tracking it a lot better. And we're about in the same area because we're at about 74 approved as of yesterday. So I would say a nice round of applause for Megan, but she's not here. They've worked really hard to get those numbers down. Another thing that I like to track is what I call a perfect SEPSI. I know nobody's perfect, but it really helps our unit and audits when you submit everything accurately in your SEPSI, whether it's your financial information, your corporate details, your insurance is up to date, like the simple little things, because when we send it back to you, you get put back at the bottom of the list. So if you submit it in June, we might not get back to you until, okay, well I have Courtney, which I'll go back in a minute, but Courtney is very quick. But I mean, it'd be a few months or a few weeks, right? Because you went back to the bottom and there's like 290 other firms that are ahead of you. So with that being said, I like data and I like to track things. So I have like about 36% rate where everybody submits perfectly, and 51% I return once, 10% twice. So just an update on staff in my unit. I am a very, very tiny unit of 3 right now. So last year when I was here, it was just me and Sherry. You might as well raise your hand. Yeah, Sherry. Everyone probably knows Sherry because she is the person that handles all the disclosures, which we're going to talk about shortly. And then late last summer, I got a SEPSI reviewer, and her name is Courtney, and you have probably seen her as well because both of them are also very helpful in responding to your guys' questions, getting things moving. I'm just really proud of my unit of 3. We do a lot, we handle a lot. I see our unit as customer support. We not only have the engineering firms, but now we have all the land app firms that are coming in our shop. And I mean, some days I look at it and I'm like, wow, my unit, which is me, Sherry, and Courtney, we do a lot of work. We oversee the pre-qual, we have pre-qual to review, we oversee the SEPSIs, we publish the PTD and review all the advertisements, and I apologize, 215 is kind of messed up. We review some of the statements of interest, we manage and post selection, and we track everything, we do disclosures, we oversee the evaluation process, so we know when you're getting evaluated, and we have updated that to make it easier, and now we're tapping into invoicing. So my unit does a lot at the end of the day. So shout out to my team of 3. So, some things about SEPSI. I know people are like, oh my gosh, she told me this all the time, but for some reason, it's something that always happens when we're reviewing SEPSIs. Make sure your financial person responds to audits quickly. I have had firms that actually tell me, they're like, well, I submitted that 5 months ago. I'm like, I know. I said everybody submits in June, unfortunately, but when it's your turn, please be respectful to audits and us, because it's, there's like 369 of you. You clearly saw it, and audits has to go through every single application. So, some people have copped attitudes about it, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry to say it, but when it's your turn, it's your turn. Let's get it done and be responsible and be done with it. So we have had a lot of issues just in calendar year 2024 where people are not responding to audits in a timely fashion. And that's when they get me involved, and I send what's called a threat email, because I basically threaten I'm going to mark you not approved. And I have done it to a few firms in the past, including calendar year 2024. I'll send out the threat email and be like, please respond to audits in 7 days. If you don't respond in 7 days, I'm going to mark you not approved. And I have people that don't respond, and I click the button and you don't exist. So, don't get to that point. So when you submit your SEPSI, make sure your financial person will respond to audits. So just to give you an idea, I had over 30 of those threat emails I had to send in 2024. So it happens. So just, I understand you sit there, you submitted it by the deadline, and you expect a tight turnaround. You're like, I submitted it by June 30th. I want it now. And I'm like, I get it. But unfortunately, as with the state, nothing moves fast. But Megan and her team tried very, very hard to go through them, and she has staffed up, and that's helped a lot. So I just ask that you guys are responsive to them, because no one wants to hear email, and no one likes to deliver bad news. So for the subsidies that you submit this year, just some reminders. The consultant disclosure, make sure it's calendar year 2025, which I'll go over in a minute. And then update your signature dates, please. A lot of times the disclosures are sent in the SEPC and the dates are from last year. So if you got selected on a job, we send your disclosures to the Chief Procurement Office, and if you have a potential conflict of interest, to Chief Counsel. And a lot of times they're like, that date, it's over a year old. And then poor Sherry has to send it back, and then we have to keep following up, and it actually delays your agreement. So when there's issues on your disclosure and you're selected for a job as a prime, if it's not perfect when you send it, it can delay your agreement, and we've had people be non-responsive to that as well. So I ask that, when we reach out, Sherry reaches out, please be responsive, because she's doing that to get your agreement moving, because Jack is sitting there asking us, where's the disclosure? So another thing with SEPC is new password protected files. It happens every year, and people will tell me, and I get it. Your SEPCs have very confidential information, and I recently got into, I wouldn't say a fight or argument, I don't know what a nicer word is because it's late in the afternoon, a disagreement with a firm that was refusing to send me their financial information, but they want to work for the state of Illinois and get pre-qualified. I'm like, that's great. But you need to, all of you do, right? Give me your financial information. It's like everything in your firstborn child. But I will tell you right now, when you submit it to ePass, I'm not reading it. Courtney ain't reading it because I don't want to read it. The only people reading it are audits. That is those are the only people that have access to your financial information that you submit. And I guarantee you, I still have fights with people. They're like, I'll just email that to you. That goes in the system. Because I don't like anything in emails that are in regards to SEPCs, because I'll guarantee you, I will forget by tomorrow or by noon. And as will you. So, I get it. It's very confidential information, but I want you to know that in ePass, we have it locked down. And I have so many permission layers that I hand out. Nobody has access to your financial information besides me, Courtney, who checks them in, and audits. Because no one else is in that. But yeah, I still had a firm a few months ago fight with me, but I want to get pre-qualified. We've clearly never met before. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But you need to get an overhead rate. And they're like, okay, well, can I email you this? I'm like, no. And then I'm like, I hate to admit, but it's when you get so many emails and then you're still fighting with the same firm. I'm like, you just can't take no for an answer and meet the wall. Because that's why I'm like, no, rules are rules. And I even told the firm, I'm like, go get a cognizant audit, from another state agency. Honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, that is the golden ticket to get through the SEPC process. If you get a cognizant audit, a CPA audit is not the same as a cognizant audit. But if you got a cognizant audit from another state or agency, that's your fast pass. We just look at the pre-qual, they look at that, you're good to go. So enough of that, sorry, rant over. So for 2025, if your firm begins with A through E, you will do the whole kit and caboodle, where you will have your pre-qual and your financials, just a FYI. So, any questions on SEPCs? Okay.
Cognizant audits, they were talking about that if other state, works with the financial audits and give it the students and apply them to or something, or you apply the audit process, or what is it?
Can you explain the cognitive audit process?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to pull up ePass. So the cognizant audit, that would be more of a Megan question. But basically that's if you went to Tennessee to their DOT and you got basically the financial review from them, and in their letter they specifically say, we performed a cognizant audit review of this firm, that's what we would accept. So some people have actually submitted to me their approval letter from let's say Florida DOT, and I'm like, nah, it's not the same, because that's our approval letter that we generate. So a cognizant audit is something totally different, and I think it's kind of a little bit more in depth, but I can't really speak to it because I don't get into the finances. But Anything else about subsidies? Yes.
So if the other states have to say the words cognizant, is that something you guys will start doing in your role?
That would be a Megan question.
Okay.
Because I think the review that they do for you is not a cognizant review. Yeah, I think it gets a little bit more in depth as if it's not already in depth, but it gets a little deeper, I think. So, okay.
What's the number one reason you return somebody's subsidy?
The consultant disclosure would be number one, and insurance expired. And the only reason, I've had this question before, so I'm glad you brought that up. I've had people ask me, why do we still have insurance in the subsidy? Because at one point when we have the invoice arm, which everyone should be familiar with, we have the insurance certificate updated there, and I wanted to get rid of the insurance certificate in the subsidy, but the only reason I have to keep it is if there was a claim down the road. Because I have had it where the Bureau of Claims has come to ask me, Jim Sturt, and he's like, do you have the insurance certificate for firm A, B, and C of 2021? And so I have to dig, and I have to actually find your insurance certificate. So I would get rid of it in the subsidy if I could, because that is also one of the number one sendbacks, besides the disclosures. So statements of interest. Everyone's probably like uber excited because you're done with it. Won't be out for another few months for the next bulletin. So uber high level, just to give you an idea, everybody probably knows, Districts Bureau, they submit their ads, we publish, you submit your statements of interest. The Districts Bureaus, they review your statements, and we go to selection. But I kind of wanted to give you a little bit more in depth. We have a very tight internal schedule. So the whole process for the PTD actually takes 4 months. And a lot of times we're overlapping. And I hate to say, Sherry and I will be getting ready for selection. I'm like, what PTB are we on? Because it's like we're done with one PTB, but we're gearing up for the next one. So I'm not gonna lie, I always lose track at one point because it's like we're so focused on selection, but then we're getting ready for the next PTB. So we do overlap, not as bad as the letting, but we do. So for example, the districts and bureaus, they have about 21 days to draft their ads. And, we have about 30 days or so to review the ads, send it back for review, get funding approved, director sign off, you name it. You guys get 3 weeks, and then after SOIs, it's about 55 days till selection. So we have a very, very strict internal schedule as well. I just wanted to talk about a few clarifications. I guess this would probably be really good before your SOI submittal. And now you're probably like, it would have been nice, before I submitted my statement of interest. One of the changes that we made, and I believe this may have been one of the comments, we did work very closely with ACEC one year. They had a subcommittee and they came to us with some changes, some proposed changes. And this is one of the changes we adapted. And of course, without anything, a lot of times we talk to the districts to also get their feedback because they're the ones reviewing the statements of interest of the day. Key personnel, it drives me nuts because when we're going through SOIs for the initial review, or at least BD&E does, I still see people, sample ad right here, right? We have construction inspectors, liaison engineer, and the resident engineer technician. But let's just say, for example, if the inspectors is not plural. That would be 3 people. So literally the district is telling you, I just want to see 3 resumes and nothing more. I kid you not, every SOI, you're coming across it, I see 20 resumes. And I'm like, that was so not an advertisement. It's a checklist, Construction inspector, liaison engineer, resident, follow the checklist of what they want. The district is overloaded, understaffed. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing it, but it's they don't want to read 20 resumes. I hate to tell you that. And I'm not going to lie, we were reviewing a statement of interest this round for 215, and I saw a firm sneak in 10, 15? 10 or 15 resumes behind the Exhibit A. And I gave good readings because you didn't follow instructions. So, when you see Exhibit A for key personnel, only list the ones they list. I mean, the district goes through this procedure. I even created an ad generator for them, which is still very hard apparently sometimes. But they get choices and they get to add the key personnel or just remove a lot of the key personnel, and they only want to see those people. So please keep that in mind when you do your statement of interest. Okay, This one, I don't know what's happened. We went for like a few PTVs where it was like maybe 1, maybe none. And 215, I have marked already 4 SOIs not approved for exceeding the 2-page limit. I'm not quite sure why, but attachment 1. If there's anything you can take out of this, calendar year on your disclosure form has to be 2025. Your SOI attachment 1, 2 pages, nothing more, because I will mark you not approved. And that was also one of the things that we agreed to with ACEC. Just a little background behind the 2 pages, because some people are like, well, why 2 pages? I can't fit my whole proposal in 2 pages. I'm like, I understand that. But at the same time, look at the other side of the table. If you have 20 statements of interest and you have this attachment, I can't do that in my head, so you're gonna have to do that. But what did I say, like 20 for? Yeah. Okay, well that was pretty much But no, I think what I was getting at was like maybe it was 10, so like 200. Yeah, I can't do that. I'm sorry. So that. Talk to the district. In fact, I wanted to just get rid of it. And before we do anything, we always, survey, cool with the district, work with them because it's, they're looking at it. And a lot of them wanted to keep it. I wasn't too happy because I just wanted to get rid of it. I figured the less attachments, the better, because then it's the less work for you guys. So just remember that 2 pages, nothing more. So 215, I do apologize. I've had a lot of revisions. One of the things, I will not lie, that I did not check very closely was project approach and understanding. So when the districts submit ads to me to review, I have literally like a page of a checklist of things that I look for. And the one thing I did not have time to look at was the project approach and understanding, which is why you saw in and out of changes. Normally, I look to see, well, if it's a job specific, why didn't you include a project approach and understanding? Your project approach understanding has to be attached behind your org chart. Attachment 2, not attachment 1, 2 pages, remember that. But behind the org chart. That was what we agreed upon with ACEC. So, I know I had this question a lot because someone asked me like, well, why is there a project and approach for a work order? I was like, that's a great question because normally I'm taking that off. But I'm not going to read this. Hopefully you guys can read it. This was the response from the district. So again, it's at the district's discretion. If they want it in there, I might question them. And I'm like, do you want this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, move on. So that, just keep in mind, sometimes if you see this on a work order, that's what they're looking for. Okay. I love data, and I'm probably going to say it again. So something I've started to do for PGP 213 is tracking when you guys submit. I find it very intriguing because what I do is I sit there with a spreadsheet and I click a button and I'm watching you all up until like the last minute. And I swear it's like I look and I'm like, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? Man, we're at like 11:58. Are these like 7 firms going to make it? And I'm like, and then I look at my phone for like a minute. I'm like, I'm going to lunch because I'm like, no one called me yet or sent me an email. I'm really watching it to the minute, and I'm always there because I know there's issues, even though I don't like to get the frantic phone calls like, let's say 15 minutes before, which really doesn't happen, so kudos to you guys. So just to give you kind of a sneak peek what you guys are submitting. So for PTV 213, which was in August, we had about 574 statements of interest submitted. I marked 2 unapproved during our initial review. And we had about 136 unique consultant firms submitting. 62% of you submit the day of. I find it quite fascinating because I was like, wow, I would still not wait the last minute. But I love watching it. So like the check marks here, I'm not tall, are when you guys submitted. And then looking at it, like 85 firms submitted the day of, and then I'm uber curious, I break down to the hour. And about 20, I'm sorry. I sit there and I'm like, wow, guys, this is great. 24 people submitted within the hour, so then I broke it down to 4. So between 11 and 11:30, 12 of you submitted, 9 between 11:30 and 11:45, and then, really, these people were great. There was like 2, about 11:54. But I think it was 2:14, it got really intense. So let's move on to that one. Well, I still have it. Okay, so 2:14 got really enticing. I got 2 at 11:58. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm like, holy smoke. I wanted to say something else, I'm like, you guys are gonna miss it. I'm like, wow, this is not fun, but I'm watching it. So November, we had about 549 SOIs submitted. We marked 3 not approved during the initial review. 1 was actually 2 to non-responsiveness. This one was really weird, and I don't have it very often. 2 must have been to the page limit. I had 1 form, and I still never heard back from them. And I'm like, did something happen to these people? You know, normally if I email, I get really great responses back. You know, people are really quick to respond, and I try to be quick to respond. As Jack would say, I'm extremely impatient. I am impatient. I'm sorry. So, I am. I'm sorry. I blame you. It's like, you know, you're impatient too.
Moving on.
So, this one firm, you know, we ask you to correct some things in your SOI. We look just at a high level, so it might be like your categories are wrong on your subplan, your percents are wrong, you missed a signature on your delinquent debt. Not very many, but you know, we do ask you to correct it, and a lot of people are very quick and do it within the 3 days we give you. This one firm, it's like I sent an email, I'm like, hey, I need this additional information. Because as soon as my unit is done going through the slew of SOIs, so it's like I see 549, and I really can't do math, but it's like 4 different components we have to review, so it's like in the thousands we're looking at. It's brain numbing. But the firm never responded back to me, and I'm like, this is really weird. I'm like, you have till noon. I said, I can't wait. No response. And then I marked them not approved, and I told them, and I still got no response. So I don't really know what happened to that firm. They never responded. So, you know, if we do ask you for additional information, please respond. So we had about 546 and 147 unique firms. 50% submitted on the day of, which was about 74 again. And again, I broke it down within the hour. So we had about 21 firms within the hour of 11. This got really, really tight. I had, like I said, 2 at 11:58. They had 2 minutes to click that button and finish up everything. I was just like, wow. And then I even took it to the next level, which I don't, obviously I'm not going to show. But I put the last minute submitters. Like I list the last 5, and I do share that with a few people inside my deck. So I'm like, this is interesting. There are repeat offenders. I'm not going to lie. And there are people that have learned their lesson. I know one firm, it's always hard to get the phone call when people are like, I missed the deadline. And I'm like, you know, I get it. Like, you guys put 3 weeks of hard work, networking, and everything into those packets to try and get work. I get it, but I hate to say it is a very, very hard deadline of noon. And I remember this one firm missed the deadline, and I think they had some technical issues or something. And I was on the phone. Unfortunately, they called me, I think, like 5 minutes before. It didn't go well. And then I think the next time they submitted the day before. I was like, my guys, Lauren, this is great. 215, so I can kind of give you kind of a showcase of where you guys were at with 215. So we had about 140 unique firms. I will not tell you how many statements of interest. You have to wait until the press release. I marked 4 not approved. I did 2 by the time I did this. So about 56% waited till the last day, but only 1 was at 11:55. So I don't know. I'm watching you, and I'm always like waiting because I'm like, okay, who's going to call me? Who's going to email me? So I do want you to know that I am there though if you need something or need help, because I do try to stay at my desk because you guys put a lot of work in. So looking at the numbers, again, I'm sorry, I love numbers. I'm not good at math in my head, but I'm really good at Excel. It's kind of interesting to see where we have, obviously, where were we? I think that was when it was like the 13 items I was looking at. But it's been pretty consistent in the upper 500s. 788 was the highest, and that was on PTB 196, and I think that was when we had about 70 items, I think. So this is just kind of showing how many statements of interest. And I show this because I'm showing you how much competition there is out there. Unfortunately, it's like I could say that, but it's different for each district, right? Because every press release, I have a item that does not have any statements of interest. And So I say the competition is high, but I think the competition is high in D1 mainly. So I will leave it at that, it seems. There's a lot of competition in Chicago, so. Oh, and then I like to see sums because after that. So, I mean, really, per each year, it's about been over like 2,000. So since 2019, the total number of statements of interest we have received is 13,823. It's a lot of statements of interest. I mean, that's a lot of work from you guys putting together proposals. So I'll stop boring you with data, and now we'll go into the funnest part, disclosures, because that's what Sherry and I love. I'm not gonna lie, I really hate disclosures and I wish I could get rid of it. And we even tried to go to CPO's office and be like, can we do that waiver thing that you talked about? Because we thought that was gonna fix our problem. Disclosures, I mean, if you have questions, we will try to answer them the best of our ability. I mean, we've gotten pretty good at like how you should be filling them out, but there is a lot of legal jargon in there. Sometimes Sherry and I cannot answer, and we will give you your answer, or your question answered. So we did go to the CPO's office a few weeks ago because we're like, we're done with disclosures. If they're good for this year, can we just have a waiver and say we're good for like till something changes, right? Like, because it's not going to change. A lot of times your disclosures are pretty stable for like a few years. And they're like, no, every year. And I'm like, because we really don't like it. I've actually had people fight with me on this field right here. And I'm not sure why, it's very hard, but calendar year. I mean, calendar year is 2025, and I've had people be like, no, it's fiscal year. I'm like, no, I revised the form, it's calendar year. But then people still put like fiscal year 2024. I'm like, that's not what I want. That's not what CPO's office wants. So it's calendar year. Signatures, we need them on Form A, Form B, and make sure your signatures, the dates. I mean, I don't care if it's an old signature from 5 years ago, but just the date. Make sure it's up to date, and it can be electronic or wet signatures. We're not picky. So how many people in here actually fill out the disclosure? I guess I should ask. Whoa. Oh, that was like 4 hands. I'm sorry, do that again? Oh, okay, there's shy people in the back. But still not a lot, okay? How many people actually review your disclosure before it's submitted? Powerful one back there. I mean, you were quick. You're like, I do. It's important. I don't want my agreement held up. I mean, it is. I hate to say it. Okay. Well, some of you might be like, I don't feel this format. When do you disclose? We've had people actually disclose like when they should disclose. I'm like, don't provide more. More is not better in this case, please, because what happens is when you provide more, if there's a potential conflict of interest, Chief Counsel is just getting really strict, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble, but they are really nitpicking. I mean, like, if you answered yes to a question, they're gonna be like, they're gonna want a full depth review and ask like 5 billion questions, and then Sherry and I are just irritated. We're like, we just want this to be done. So, don't overshare. Please, just follow this. If you're 5% or more in stock, disclose. If your stock share is greater than that number right there, or the governor's salary, share. If it doesn't meet any of that, just please don't share. Because Chief Counsel is going to ask you 5 billion questions if you get an agreement. Another thing we've tried to condense is if you have a lot of people to disclose. So obviously, if you're a very large company and you have a lot of shareholders, just do one Form A. Do us the favor. We do not want to see a consultant disclosure form with over 100 pages. Save yourself the paperwork. Just do one Form A. If the answers are the same for everyone, and just attach a spreadsheet. It's great. It's way easier, less complicated. And do not supply over 100 pages for that. I mean, I'm assuming like you might have like maybe a few people that might have some yeses to questions. You fill out their own Form A, but there's no reason for all those forms. And answer all questions, please. We've had that a lot now where people aren't checking boxes. So I'm going to go really in depth, and you guys are probably going to be really bored. So, the questions. I mean, we try to break it down the best we can with the legal jargon. Question 1, are you, I can't pronounce this word. I call it a subsidiary. I know that's not how you pronounce it.
Subsidiary.
I'm still going to call it I still can't say it. I'm sorry. I still look at it like subsidiary. Yeah. So, basically, like, are you owned by a parent firm? If you are, you have to check this box. You're like, yes, I have a parent, And then you have to tell me who your parent is, you know, the name. And then the best part is you have to actually disclose their ownership. We've had this before where people come back and they're like, well, that's my ownership. You know, I'm 100% by, let's just say like ABC Corporation. Yeah, no, you need to now tell me the ownership structure of ABC Corporation. I'm sorry. That's per the procurement code. That's their requirement. Honestly, Sherry and I do not want to even read it, but we have to. So, parent, just parent firm. If I tally up all the Form A's or your lovely spreadsheet provided, I should get 100%. If you did not, okay, right, this is the trick question. If you answered no, so like let's say you disclose like 96%, I'm missing 4, right? So that's like less than the 5% threshold. I mean, I know that, right? I'm like, I know that's not the 5% threshold. But CPO's office and chief counsel still want you to validate that statement. Because I guarantee you what happens is they come back to us and they're like, are they missing people? And I'm like, no. It adds up to 96. So obviously there's 4% missing, like that's under 5. You need to go validate that. Like, drives us nuts. So the trick question is any of the remaining ownership receiving less than 5%? Okay, so if you gave me 96, I know you got 4 left. I won't answer yes to that question. Yeah, it's less than 5%, or you know, less than the threshold, right? So I have to say, it's like the trick question. So if you don't answer yes, you're going to answer. So if you answered no, then you're going to answer yes to 2. As I'm like already confusing myself. Clear as mud. The third one, this has become more popular, employee stock ownership plan. You know, are you owned by ESOP? If you are, you check yes. And if you have a percent, you disclose that percent there. Now, question 4 is another trick question. I love legal jargon, not really, because I get confused by it, and I will be honest. Does anyone in your organization have a direct or beneficial ownership share greater than or equal to 5%? And I'm like, I think you just answered that above, but if you disclose 100% or anybody on Form A, you're just going to check yes to question 4. And I'm not going to go through 5 and 7 because I think that's self-explanatory. So hopefully we have more accurate disclosures coming in because this has been kind of a hiccup. Ooh, okay, so you know, I know some people probably like maybe don't care about this more, but you know, when you do your SEFC, please just check your disclosures for some of those like nuances just to make sure they're correct because we don't want to send it back. We have too many mistakes being submitted, which is what I'm talking about today. Causes delay in your agreement. And honestly, we started thinking about it like this is just becoming a problem. We're receiving your disclosures in the middle of the year. We're probably like, you know, if we get selected for 214 or 215, we're going to have to like, hey, give us your updated disclosure. I think we're probably just going to change it and have it its own arm and probably start having them required in January. It's kind of my brainchild. Just capture it all at the beginning of the year and just be done. That might be coming down the pipeline. It's just like one of the things I would like to improve because it being in the SEFC is causing delays in the SEFC. So the disclosure used to be in the statements of interest, and that was causing a lot of problems. We moved it to the SEFC, and now it's causing a lot of problems in the SEFC. Anyway, any questions on disclosures? I'm sorry. No? Everyone's gonna have perfect disclosures. Yeah. See Jim shaking his head. You're gonna be the first one to review. Okay, I have good news. Delinquent debt, bye-bye. It got 216. Yes, bye-bye. It was horrible. Nobody enjoyed doing it. And I heard it was a lot of hiccups for you guys and a lot of stalled time getting your sub, you know, to sign. And actually, I can't take credit for this change. This was one of the changes the committee from ACEC proposed to us a few years back. So like we made a lot of changes to the statement of interest, as you're aware. Delinquent debt was another one that they wanted to change, and I'm not going to lie, at the time they proposed it, we already had so many changes, and I didn't feel comfortable with the delinquent debt to get rid of it in the SOI just yet, because I was like, I got to make sure I'm not required by law for you to disclose this at the time of statement of interest. And then I used to be an agreement writer back in the day for consultant agreements, and I remember I'm like, they checked this in the proposal packet, why, you know, and after I looked at what I could find. I don't need it in the SOI. And then I felt like it was all one big lie because, you know, you can validate you have no debt. And then I talked to one of the agreement writers. I'm like, so do you have any delinquent debt issues? She's like, yeah, I had 6 today. And I'm like, oh, someone lied on that SOI. You know, you told me you had no issues, and here we are today. So it was quite pointless. So 216, it's gone. You don't have to worry about it. Obviously, you used to print it, get signatures. We have lots of information. Poor Sherry, she had delinquent debt, and she would always be sending them back. So no more. It's just done. So if you get select, we just check it at the time of proposal because that makes the most sense. We actually go to the comptroller's site through SAMS, and that's how we actually are able to see if you have an issue. We've had firms have issues. So then I'm like, well, this means nothing in the statement of interest. It's a waste of time for everybody. So, no more. Yay! So when you do, if you do something for PTB 216, it's going to look like this. It's just going to be a checkbox. You'll still have to check the box and verify, but I mean, you might be lying, right? Because we're catching you at the proposal packet, but on the SOI side, at least it's a lot easier, and you'll still have the delinquent arm debt, and it's just this screen is for information purposes only, nothing's required. So that was at least a good news for 216. I always like to try and streamline processes, make it more efficient. I mean, as you know, working for the state, it's nothing but paperwork, rules and red tape, and I'm always up for hearing someone's ideas as well. I'm not saying I want 100 comments back, because that's a little too much. But, if something's not working, maybe we need to look at it, like delinquent debt, for example. I mean, it really wasn't working. So, we are up for, comments and suggestions. So, I mean, we have our resources. My phrase, the kid who grew. I did look it up, it was a good word. I think we thought about that once. But, we have our website. You have our pre-qual requirements. I think all of you are probably subscribed. We have the EPAS manual and of course EPAS. And of course, workbook, if you haven't used it yet, it is good because you can filter out, categories or whatever you need in it. So, any questions? I mean, anything you guys want to talk about? I probably lost half of you during the disclosure statement. I don't blame you. Yes.
I think you've answered this before, but I can't remember, I'm hoping. Is there a way EPAS can be set up where you can submit items individually rather than almost whatever number you choose to set up?
I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but that would be a
Ever?
No, because the problem is you still have stuff attached. You have your current ops attached to it. Well, we don't have really any attachments anymore, so I guess it's really your financial contacts and your current ops. So you still have those extra, I want to call them extracurricular activities still attached. So if you were to only, let's say, submit 2 out of the 5, it's kind of like, when does your whole packet get submitted? Because let's say hypothetically you missed the deadline, and you're like, why, I only did 2 out of 3. Mm-hmm. How do I get the rest of that information to come in? So,
I mean, I would pull, sometimes oh, this one's really a priority, but, I might.
I say you might do that, but maybe other people might do that, might not do that. I hate to just say, hey, I'm up for suggestions and just go like this, but I still stay pretty strong on SOIs being a global thing because I feel like when you hit that submit, you're done. You have everything in there. And I know it's if you go for 5 different items, right? You're done with item 1 and you want to make sure you hit that deadline. But I'm hoping taking out that delinquent debt and getting your subs information, that should hopefully cut a lot of that wait time that you might have. And hopefully maybe speed up the process to pass those. So that's why I'm ooh, what will 216 look like? How many people will still be submitting the last hour? We'll find out. So I'm hesitant on that because it's all tied together. Everything with the current ops and stuff like that is still tied together because even if you submitted one item, it's not everything. So, I don't know. I struggle on that one. I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, not that idea. Sorry. I don't want to discourage people. Anything else? Yes.
Like we have a new contract with IDA, and we ask our staff to submit a disclosure form, and like most of them said, oh, it's with on file with IDA. What we do in this case? We put it in the vendor and
In the vendor docs, right?
So, yeah, if I understand your question correctly, so when you get awarded a contract, you have to submit your financial disclosures through vendor docs for you and all your subs. And a lot of times the subs don't want to give you that information because it is very sensitive. And we have argued this with the CPO's office, and they have offered no relief. It is a requirement. And, I mean, we understand,
so let them know if they request.
yeah.
But it has to be submitted to the prime.
Yes,
Subs, they don't go in details.
that's my understanding. Subs do not have access to upload it themselves. It has to be in through the prime.
Yes.
Just real quick, Jen, my own personal interest, could you please speak to the increase in the number of phase 3 contracts in the last 5 years?
So the question is,
Sorry, Jack.
loaded question from our inside employee here. You know, have we had a significant increase in the number of phase 3 contracts in the last 5 years? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, we've had an increase in all contracts over the last 5 years. We've seen phase 3 has grown. I mean, years ago, I mean, District 1 would have a lot, and maybe, you know, a lot of the other districts wouldn't have, all of phase 3 would be done in-house. But now you're seeing that every district needs phase 3 support and help. And, you know, we're losing staff, and we're losing staff faster than we're gaining it, so there is more of a demand in phase 3 than we've had historically.
Just real quick, and I'm just curious about rough numbers, Jack. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Has it doubled, has it tripled? Just,
It'd be hard to be, I mean, Jenny's she could crunch the numbers.
Can't tell you now, but I could probably tell you Friday.
in District 1, we've doubled in the last 3 to 4 years since I've been here.
Yeah, and I know, like, District 7, historically, they wouldn't have any. And now, they have one almost every goal. A lot of the districts had enough in-house staff that they could cover it. But, the number of projects going up, larger projects, increased staff, I mean, you can do the math. But I mean, relative to the phase 1 and phase 2, it's probably what you're asking, right? Because we've seen, grass has shown we've increased across the board, but I would say phase 3 is probably a greater increase.
Okay, see, our firm is not equal in construction inspection, but we will to get that in the next one. But one question remains regarding the documentation. So, does it need to be done ahead of, applying for the pre-qual, or can it be done afterwards?
It has to be a pre-qual time.
Pre-qual time. So, do you have the schedule laid out, for the offerings of the course or?
So the question was, the pre-qual category requires you have a DOT cert. Do you have to have that prior to getting your pre-qual, or can you get it just prior to being selected? I think maybe is what you're asking. The answer is, in order to get pre-qualified, you have to have the DOT cert. Individuals that require the DOT cert, those have to be done prior to submitting your pre-qual. Jenny, I don't know if you know, the Bureau of Construction administers the DOT cert class through ICT, I believe. I don't know the schedule, I don't know if it's available.
I don't
It's all
know.
online now.
It's all
It's all
online.
online now. It used to be hard to get in the classes.
Yeah, I think it's all like through Zoom type stuff.
It's nice.
Okay, well, thank you.